Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Unscripted from Real to Real. I have a really awesome guest. I did a podcast with her a while ago. I think it was last week or the week before. But anyways, yeah, so she is an author, PhD, scientific, into the paranormal. We're just going to talk a little bit about everything. So let's get around here. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for agreeing to come on.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
I agree. Before we were on air, I was talking to you a little bit about your book and about some events that you have coming up, and a little bit of my mediumship started coming through. Like I said, it's not something I search; it's just something that happens. But yeah, so with your new book, and you want to do it a little bit differently. So tell people a little bit about some of your books that you have written, and then compared to what you're looking at writing now, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So, back in 20, I guess it was the mid to late 2018, I started writing a book. I was not into the paranormal at that point. We had just moved away from California. We were living in Utah at the time, and I was very homesick. And I had had a story in my head for a really long time. And I decided one day I was just going to start writing this book. I had never written a book before, but something in me said, this is the time to do it. And so I started writing it, and it took me about 22 months to get this book written. So that meant it released during COVID. And released the book. People loved it. I independently published it because it was just one of those things where I had been sitting on it for so long, and I was just so proud that I had done it. Written an almost 70,000 word novel
Wow.
is quite an accomplishment for anybody, whether it's fiction or not. So I went ahead and I independently published it. And the following year, I wrote and released the second in the series. And I was writing, I had fallen in love with romance books way back in the day, but I wanted something different. I wanted to write a romance book where the characters, it was modern day, but they were also in paranormal investigators is basically the premise of the book. And because I wanted something different. And so I wrote it, and people loved it because it was so different, because they were stories that were not available and still really aren't available on the market. So as I'm going through the series and starting to do more and more research about what it takes to be a paranormal investigator, how investigations are conducted, I started really wanting to dive deeper, and I wanted to investigate myself. I wanted to see what the instruments did. I wanted to actually hear with my own ears how they sounded. I wanted to know how to actually operate them. So I was lucky enough. I guess, now I know what I was doing. I basically manifested it. I just wanted so badly to join a reputable paranormal investigations team. And I found one. It just kind of the stars lined up and I was able to meet my current team, who I'm still a part of, and was able to join their team. So that was back in 23, I believe. We're now 20. Yes, it was 23. Um, and after I joined the team, I just fell in love with everything about the paranormal. I had had experiences growing up. I had always been intrigued by anomalous phenomena. I had kind of on my own had always known that there were things that science just could not explain.
Hmm.
And I was not satisfied with shoving things under the rug just because we couldn't explain it with science. So I had always been that way anyway, especially when it came to my own experiences. So it was just a huge accomplishment for me to be able to become a part of a team, not just because it was something that I had always wanted to do, but I wanted to be able to reach other people and let them know that I, especially for the people who don't have anyone to turn to, I wanted them to know that, there are places that they can turn to. Because growing up and having my experiences, I could not confide in anybody. There was nobody for me to talk to. The closest I could get was just watching, sightings
Hmm.
on TV after school. I couldn't go to the library and check out all of those books. I wasn't allowed to. I couldn't let my family know that this was something I was into and interested in. It just wasn't talked about during that time. So when I went to metaphysics school, the whole reason I wanted to do it was because I wanted to teach people, for one, how to take back their personal power, because when you're dealing with a haunting, it is so easy to give that up. And it's
Hmm.
amazing how quickly it actually happens. And I'm sure you've seen that.
Hmm.
And so the further I got into metaphysics school, the more I really kind of honed in on that. And so now, as a paranormal investigator and researcher, that's one of my passions. It's letting people know that they're not alone, that yes, your experiences are real, whether science can explain it or not.
Hmm.
And our job is to come in and let you know if what you're experiencing is environmental or not. And in some cases, it's not environmental. And so, if that is the case, okay, what could possibly be causing what you're experiencing? And no, you're not crazy.
Hmm.
And there are people who are willing to listen and help you. And
Right.
so that has been one of my passions over the past few years. Just making sure that, whoever is meant to find my work knows that. So
Hmm.
I still write in my fiction world, but I'm also now starting to write in the nonfiction world under my regular name, and I'm wanting to reach a wider, more people,
Hmm.
a wider market
Right.
with
Right.
that idea of there are things that happen and you're not alone. And
Right.
these are the things that it can be, and there's a possibility that it might not be those things.
Right. So you're kind
And
of breaking it
basically, mhm,
down. You're kind of
yeah,
breaking it down into different kind of like subtopics of, instead of it being black and white, which a lot of the books
yes,
I think that are out there now, which are not bad books, it's just the fact that
no,
they're kind of leaving out a little bit of some of the
yeah,
details of, you
yeah.
go deeper in the exploration of what it could be or what couldn't be.
I do, because that's my passion. I share some of my own personal experiences in the the book that I'm currently writing. And I was actually just thinking today there might have to be more books because I've had so many experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've shared with you, of course, a few of the major ones, but
Mm-hmm.
there have been others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I really wanted a book that didn't just go down and list a location and an event.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to write a book that could possibly explain the reason for behind the events.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important, especially today with, the information that kind of, travels through social media, how quickly it can travel, the misinformation that can
Oh
travel.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really, really important that we give people um
An outlet.
resources, yeah, outlets, but also resources that help them think more deeply
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Mm-hmm.
just coming across a picture or coming across a post that says X, Y, and Z, and then they run with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another, that's another passion of mine, and my professor was, very instrumental in drilling this idea into us that you have to think for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's one of the most important things in in humanity is you have to
Right.
be able to think for yourself, and
Right.
that is when I'm especially on a in a private home investigation, and we're dealing with someone who is very scared. My passion is not only helping them understand that they can and they should take their power back, but they also need to think for themselves, which means don't just invite anybody into your home who could potentially tell you you have this, this, and that, and the other thing, and then
Right.
run with
Right.
it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You
Yeah. Yeah.
have to really do your research. Does it all line up? And
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't, then there's no reason for you to run with that idea.
Right.
Um,
It
yeah.
really begs the question of the person should ask, should I research this or should I go further into this? You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
everybody just at their word, but it's just, I mean, some of these people, especially when you talk about home
Mhm.
investigations, you know, the other team that I have been a part of, K2 Paranormal in Tennessee, they've really tried to do that research and explore that with the homeowner or whatever. You know, they don't
Mhm.
just come in and then do what they're going to do for whatever reason and then leave. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's some research done and there's some answers usually at the end. You know what I mean? If they haven't
Exactly.
found the
Yeah.
answers, they're going to still try to find the answers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when I watch some, you know, when I've seen some of these over the years, some of these paranormal TV shows, they're going for the views, the popularity. Not all of them, but there's a few, and it's just it's almost like they can some can really do more damage than
Absolutely.
you know what I mean
More
than
harm than
actually
good.
trying
Yeah.
than trying to help some of these
Yeah.
and it's not to say that all of them, but I mean it's just there have been a few that I've seen, and I'm
Mhm.
not name names, but I mean it's just
Right.
I mean I don't know. I've always been that type of person that wants to get into the crux of the bottom of it. You know what I mean? I want or the
Mhm.
bottom of what's going on and how
Yeah.
this and me being a medium and I've been able to do that with certain things, but I don't always get that defining information.
Yeah.
Sometimes the research plays that role for a reason. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that. I've watched a lot of some mediums on TV that on other paranormal TV shows that do psychic sweeps. Now I do the same thing, but
Mhm.
I don't do it on TV. But I mean, I watch some of these, and they're very good at what they do, and it's educational, and it's pretty cool. But sometimes you wonder. I always wonder too because it's just like, are they really seeing this or talking about this or doing this? There's some things that are really kind of suspect to me.
Yeah.
And not that I will call it out, but me watching it, I'll say it to myself like, yeah, that's BS, but
I
it's
think
just the way
everybody
it
has to
is.
have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You
just the way it
you have to
is.
go into it like that. Even as an investigator, a paranormal investigator in doing this work. I mean, I was so excited to join the team and be a part of it and
Hmm.
start doing investigations. And I have to tell you, that sense of I hate to use the word skepticism, I guess healthy skepticism, you
Hmm.
know, is something that has kind of become more of how I approach cases now,
Hmm.
because you want to be so careful. You want to be careful that when you're not leading anybody, because that is very easy to
Hmm.
do. Even if you're not a medium and you have done some research, you can very easily lead a
Yeah.
person into
Hmm.
believing something. And you have to be very, very careful about
Very
that.
careful. Yeah.
And you need to go in and you need to be cautious, I guess would be a
Hmm.
better word instead of
Right. Right.
skepticism. You need to be very cautious of what you say, how you approach things, and you need to be very observant. You need
Very
to
aware.
listen.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very,
you
yeah.
have to listen, because there are people who will keep information from you purposely,
Hmm.
um, and purposely not be honest with what is going on, um, for whatever benefit they think they're going to benefit.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm the same way, like you have shared some of your mediumship input that you've gotten. And
Hmm.
I'm still like, okay, I'm not gonna just divulge everything. I'm not just gonna
Right.
give
Right.
them
Right. Right.
everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know me. Like, I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, that is about to happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but because, and it's not because I want to test you, but it's more about, well, I don't want to lead you, and I know you. We've
Hmm.
spoken, and I
Hmm.
understand how you work. So
Right.
it's more about, well, I don't want to lead him. I don't want to plant a little seed in his head by accident,
Right.
and then you
Right. Right.
not realize it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's more about that. But being just going in, being cautious. So it's not
Hmm.
just for people who are experiencing, a phenomena. Of course, they need to be cautious and they need to be aware, but also people
Hmm.
who are actually going in and helping these people. You need to be aware, you need to be cautious, you need to be careful of misinformation. That is just so huge. There are so many rumors going around about places that are said to be haunted by, a malicious entity, and the entity does this, and that. And it's just absolutely not true. Or they get the history
Right.
completely wrong.
Right.
I was at a place with my family a couple years back, and it's a very well known historical location. And the person giving us a tour got the dates wrong. And my daughter, who was 10 or 11 years old at the time, called her out on it, and she tried to say that my daughter was wrong.
Mm.
So it's very, very important. Again, we're back to think for yourself. If you think you know the answer,
Hmm.
stick with it and then go double check it. you know don't let somebody mislead you by not thinking for yourself,
Hmm.
because that is so dangerous. You don't want to fall
Right.
into that trap.
Right.
There's just a lot of misinformation out there that is just so unfortunate.
Hmm.
um Even me growing up, of course, watching the shows, because they were
Right.
everywhere for a long time. Just
Right.
I feel like I was gullible, but also I wasn't able to help it because it was just fed to me. It was
Right.
fed to
Right.
us.
Right. Right.
So what else are you going to do, right? You're supposed
Hmm.
to be able to trust these people, right? They have the cameras, they have the power, they have, the power to get the shows on air to a mass audience. You're trusting them to give you the correct information. And unfortunately, that doesn't always happen.
Right. Right. Right.
So, if you hear something, go and, like, I'm the type of person, if I watch a cool show, I will literally go and research it myself just to make sure
Right.
that what I
Right.
just saw and heard is accurate.
Right. There's been times where and like recently when I've been all of a sudden in the last month I've been addicted to a lot of these paranormal shows, and
Mm-hmm.
I stopped watching them a long time ago. But for some reason,
Yeah.
I had this bug to watch these shows, and I picked up on a lot of different things that I didn't catch before. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
there were certain things that I noticed that they didn't notice, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Huh, okay." So there's a reason why that I'm kind of like doing my own research. I
Yeah.
fast forward through all the interviewing. I just get to the
Mm-hmm.
crux of the investigation because part of me says you don't want to know any information in case you ever have to be there. And I don't. I
That's a good
just want to
idea.
know.
Yeah.
I want to see how they investigate. I kind of want to see what they get and whatnot. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very, and just like my friend Josh, who I've investigated with, who lives pretty close to me, um, you know, I'll get information a day or a week before, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
contact him and be like, are you working on something? And he'll be like, maybe, and then I'll ask him, okay, what are you working on? He's like, I ain't telling you nothing,
Yeah.
and so, but that's the way it has to be.
Yeah.
And short of blindfolding me, which is fine. I mean, it's going to a location. Um, the one location that we did go to was the only thing I got was a year engraved on a stone plaque on the side of a brick building, which I only saw. It was right there in front of me, so it was probably like I was sitting, like kneeling down, looking at it, and that was it. I didn't see anything around me. I didn't see anything else. No trees, no nothing. Just this plaque.
Wow.
Welcome to find out that when we were driving to do this investigation, it was an old school that had the date on the side of the building.
Oh,
And this
wow.
school
Okay.
was half and half. And the reason why I don't know why I didn't get it because when I first walked in and I'm doing this psychic sweep and some of the because it was an active middle school and there
Mm-hmm.
were this was off season in the summer and but there were some teachers that were leading this tour and they were into the paranormal
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing I when I'm doing this sweep I walk in and I'm like and I look inside this building and half the building looked ancient and the other half was new and
Wow.
newer. And I was like, what's the deal with this? I said, half of that is like super old. And he said, and then they said, well, the half that you're in now actually burnt down
Oh,
and they had
wow.
to rebuild it.
Mm.
And so it was built in like the 40s or 50s because I was seeing same
Before.
attire of the 50s and
Yeah.
it was like walking back in time. You walk past the threshold into the old part of the building. I would see different things from that era. It
Mm.
was really kind of crazy. So it was really cool, you know what I mean? And but that, having the ability to see or notice certain things, um, Josh knows that he does the research, and he doesn't tell
Mm.
me any, and he won't even give me a hint because he just doesn't want me to know. He wants to know,
Yeah.
and and so when I went in there and did this investigation and caught all this stuff, and when I was standing there and on the hallway, and I saw in my third eye, I saw this little girl in a yellow dress run down to the corner of the hallway and stop. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And then I heard something, but then I was like, I walked down and we were walking down there, and I asked I said, did something happen down here? And the teacher said, possibly. And I said, okay. I said, was a little girl with a yellow dress? And I said, that was and the other teacher was like, "Oh my god!" And so what happened was, some years ago, there was a principal that was the only one left in the building, and he was in his office. And the office was right off the side of that corner, and he
Mm-hmm.
came out and saw a little girl in a yellow dress, and was asking, if are you lost or whatever, and she disappeared, and he freaked
Oh,
out.
wow.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, okay. So it's moments like that I have that come to me, you know what I mean? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that is for him to my friend Josh to do that verification or that research And he researched all of that stuff. So he knew all of that stuff that I was going to say, some things that he didn't catch that other people caught. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So it's moments like that that when you go into a haunted location, you want to be aware, like you said, but you also want to be cautious
Yeah.
because there's so many different things that could influence you. You don't want to lead people, and I don't want to be led. So it goes
Yeah.
back to your statement of I'm not going to lead you, but I'm going to see what you are going to see or whatnot. You know what I mean? So that's the difference of some people. You could tell when other people are leading mediums. You know, you can.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and it's like, why would you say that? Why would you
Hmm.
make that count? Let them do what they got to do, and then after all said and done,
Yeah.
then you know
Yes.
talk about the history of it or the aspect or the validation or what. But I've seen that a couple times on a couple different shows. Is they will start asking that person questions. It's like, don't ask any questions. Just you know what I mean. Let it play
Yeah.
out and
Hmm.
it doesn't always happen that way, but there's been I think that it's kind of happenstance. They just kind of they're so excited because the medium is getting something for them and
Yeah.
they want to know more and it's kind of like a Freudian slip, it's like oops, I
Yeah.
shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have asked
Hmm.
that. It's like so there are people out there that are really good at doing that and it's just and not every medium is going to be the same. And that is where the myth is that just because we're mediums, we're not the same. We were the same because we're not. We're all
No,
different.
you're not. You're still
Yeah.
individuals.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And and,
with
and
your
it's
own
just
abilities.
it's just like having a car that's got a different engine in it. The car may
Exactly.
look the car may look exactly the same inside and out,
Hmm.
but it's got a different engine in it, it runs differently.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's I use analogies a
for
lot
sure.
just because.
I like it. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
so
perfect.
right, right. And when you're talking about your books too, you know what I mean? You have this knack of creating this, uh, this fiction, and you
Yep.
wanted to put your abilities in your writing into your new nonfiction. Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you, has your writing style influenced you on writing nonfiction compared to fiction?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Um I when I and because we've spoken,
Yeah.
when I started writing this nonfiction book, it was coming out the narrative is very it's just a story. I'm a storyteller,
Hmm.
and so the way the narrative is coming out is in that way, um just with my prose and the way things are flowing, and but I'm liking it.
Hmm.
It's not fiction, it's still nonfiction, but the and that's the way I was hoping it would go, to be honest, and I didn't know that until I started writing it. I wanted because I started writing books because it's just like with a reader. We read
Hmm.
books because we want to escape. We want to fall into the book. And if it's a good book, that's going to happen. And when I write my books, I want that to happen to my readers, whether it's fiction or not. I want my readers with this particular book to fall into my memory and
Hmm.
see what I
Hmm.
saw. I
Yeah.
want to take them
Right.
there, and I
Right.
want to take them into all of the theories that I'm explaining. I want them to get inside my brain and
Hmm.
see what is, what I'm, for lack of a better term, conjuring up in my head with these theories and
Right.
everything. And
Right. Right.
and I want to take them there. And so that's why I'm so excited to be writing it, because I feel like it is going to be a different book, a different nonfiction book, kind of like an autobiography, like a paranormal kind of
Hmm. Yeah.
autobiography that, that I don't think exists yet. If it does,
Hmm.
if one does, I haven't come across it yet. So yes, my storytelling brain has definitely come through in this book, and I'm very glad it has,
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
don't think I can write a different way. I don't think I can.
Oh yeah,
I'm
you
not a
can.
I
because
don't know.
because no, because just your kind of style, but just by the way you're describing the way you're writing, and I'm getting all this information now. Okay, and it's kind of like, because I there's something that keeps telling me that there's something I need to pitch to you
Mhm.
about a book, and I'm going to save that for later. But
Okay.
I just think that the way that you write, um, have you ever? Do you remember the books called Choose Your Own Adventure books?
I've heard of them.
Okay, now I grew up reading those books because I loved them, because of the fact that a
Okay.
lot of them were, about dragons or mystery or scary stuff or whatever. And
Mhm.
I loved those books because of the fact that it made my brain take a different path of thinking.
Yes.
Choose
Mhm.
this way or choose this way. It's like, oh my God, what do I do? It's a book. And people were like, gosh,
Yeah.
I hate reading. It's like, I've been reading since I was in, little, since second grade, whatever, first grade. I mean,
Mhm.
I read my first ghost book when I was in second grade, you know.
Oh, wow.
And I remember it was Ghost by Daniel Cohen. Blue cover.
Mhm.
It wasn't that big, but I remember there was one story about, which I've seen a show uh, on TV that actually had an investigative group go to this. I think it was Allen Street. It was in London, and it was about
Mhm.
a haunted flat, about a gentleman or somebody that actually, I think they threw themselves out the window or hung themselves or
Oh.
something. I don't remember, but
Mhm.
I remember that, and that story stuck with me, and it terrified me when I was a kid. I was like, "Oh my God, that's just awful." And then
Mhm.
years later, I think it was just recently, I saw this episode that they were talking about this flat, and I'm like, "That's from that book." When I
Wow.
was two, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, being in the. I love being in the library. I love being around books, and there's always a story to tell, and I tell great stories, personal stories myself, and the one thing that I know that my daughter, when she was little, she would always want me to tell her stories, you know,
Oh.
and it
Yeah.
was always just that aspect. And it wasn't just a makeup story. It was just like my life story. Like, how did you do this?
Mhm.
Or, I mean, and it was just one of those things that kind of, transcended into me wanting to do podcasts when I got older, and just speaking to people. And, I have that show, which is something I want to talk to you about. But part of it is my it's called my paranormal memoirs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
experiences and stuff, and that is on my Studio Six Media page on wherever you get your podcast. So, and those are great stories because of the fact they're stories, and they're true
Yeah.
stories, and they're
Mhm.
experiences. And now I can break down a lot of different theories on people telling stories of their own experiences, um, and I take it for what it is. You know what I mean? I mean, you tell me your stories when you were a kid and all this sort of stuff. And because of the fact that when we talked, I was I was able to analyze some of that stuff
Mhm.
and see what you were kind of seeing in that, because I was given
Mhm.
permission to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to invade you, or
No, no.
I don't read
I
I don't
asked you
read
if you would
minds,
want to have a conversation. Yeah.
right, 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 right. So I was able to kind of explore that, and that was and first and foremost, it's an honor to be able to help somebody in that fashion. It's very
Mhm.
I'm very humbled in that. I feel um, very thankful that people who want to know more about certain things about their lives or whatever. Yeah, I'll help them, but I'm not a fortune teller. I don't
Exactly.
what and I
Yeah.
told people this before, and what people don't understand about mediums, whatever path that you're on right now, if I see something next month that you're doing or what you're going, that's because that's the path that you're on now. That
Mhm.
can change. And that's why I
Exactly.
tell
Yeah.
people I am not a fortune teller. I don't see the future. I just see whatever path that you're currently on now, that's
Right.
good chance that it could lead to that, or lead to that
Mhm.
event, or lead to that person you're going to meet or whatever, that can change. And most of the time, because of the fact that we are individuals and we have free will and we do what we want anyway, a lot of times that does change. It
Yeah.
may come around eventually, or it may be something similar, but yeah, if you're kind of all over the place and you do a lot of different things and spur of the moment things, that path is definitely going to change. Especially people who are spur of the moment, you know, inspirational like that, saying, "Oh, I just want to do this," or "I just want," you know what I mean? So, yeah. So it's just some people don't quite understand that it just we're not we're not all fortune tellers. We're not all you know people who tell the future, and I don't anyways. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's
Right.
just and when I tell people that too, I tell people, if this is something I see, it could happen in 6 days or 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, or it could
Yeah.
not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is just where you're standing right now. This is the path that I see you that's laid out for you.
Hmm.
Change
Yeah.
that, it's a different path, different outcome.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think people hold on to. I think media has a lot to do with it. Movies have a lot to do with it.
Hmm.
People. I don't know. They've kind of romanticized the whole mediumship ability thing, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Hmm.
it would be really cool to know, if I do this, is this going to lead me to,
Hmm.
accomplishing this and whatnot. And like you said, you brought up free will, and I think that is so important to understand, is that every single moment is a new chance.
Right.
Every
It's a new
every single
moment.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might see something, and like you said, it's only going to play out if you continue on the path that is leading you, with those moments, if you're doing the same thing each moment. But if you decide, hey, you know I'm going to go write a different book and not that particular book for a whole week, and that
Right.
could
Right.
that's going to mess
That
with the
could
timeline.
change. Right. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It's gonna
Right.
it's gonna mess with the timeline, and different things are gonna play out. So
Right. Right.
yeah, no, I think it's great that you are so careful with that,
Hmm.
because so many people, they just, they want to know,
Hmm.
but honestly, do you really want to know? Like, there's some things I don't
Right.
want to know.
Right.
Just
Right. Right.
let just
Right.
let life be,
Hmm. Right. Right. And I
just
can
let it
usually
be.
read people and kind of get a sense of who they are and
Yeah.
kind of where they're headed. I there was a girl that came to me. Well, actually, I was when I used to do my podcast in a haunted hotel, and sometimes I would sit down in the parlor and I would kind of do mini readings, which was
Mhm.
fine. And there was a girl that came to me, and they actually bet the bartenders bet her money that she would, you know, want to come talk to me, and so she did. And
Mhm.
um, I gave her, all the information of what I saw on her, and I asked her permission, and I said, okay, I see this, I see this, I see this. And then she was like, oh
Mhm.
my God. I said, are you taking a trip soon? She's like, I'm moving to Colorado. I said, okay. I see mountains and I see all this stuff beforehand. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there were moments that where I was more or less reading the person and what I see, you know what I mean? That I saw a lot of trees, a lot of mountains, rocks, all that around her. Well, that's because that's the path that she was on. She was planning
Right.
on moving to Colorado. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I had not known that, but that's just what I see. What was basically
Yeah.
in her heart, or you know what I mean. So it was just that
Do you,
was there were moments like that that I really that's where I like what I do.
yeah.
Do I always see negative things? Yes and no. I don't know when people are going to die. I don't do any. But
Yeah.
that is my own personal. I've asked not to be able to be privy to that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's not.
That's a lot.
I want to
That's a
help
lot to
people.
carry.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I don't think that personally. I go back to that old adage of or that old saying of you won't know the day of your death. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where God says, or Jesus says, you won't know. It'll just be like, and so that's why I'm kind of like, I don't dive into that, or I don't look
Yeah.
at that. You know what I mean? If I see somebody's unhealthy, I'll be like,
Mhm. Right.
your health kind of sucks. So what are you doing? It's
Yeah.
kind of like, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been really not taking care of myself and this and that. I'm like, and I'll see that, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, change it. You know,
Mhm.
do better, be better. You know what I mean? The whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why I tell people I'm not a fortune teller. I can't see your future. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even mess with tarot cards. I'm not a big tarot card fan. I'm
Mm.
not. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Uh, because when people give readings with tarot cards, they're encompassing somebody somewhere. If you're doing it
Yeah.
live or you're doing it on TikTok or whatever, that's great. That's what you do. That's great. But it's encompassing millions of people because it's
Yeah.
out there for somebody or a
Mhm.
group of people or similar
Yeah.
people or you know what I mean. So it's kind of like
It's kind of like
when
a astrology reading, or what is it? The
you're right,
horoscopes. Yeah.
right. So is this when you read that? It's like, is it for me or is it for
Mhm.
Joe Blow down the road? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I take that with a grain of salt, which is great. I've got
Mhm.
personal ones from friends and this and that, and yeah, it for the most part makes sense. But I don't put a lot of stock into it just because to me that's a little bit more fortune telling than I can't really say that because it's not nice.
It's
I mean, I know
yeah.
people. I have good friends that are very good tarot people, and it's just not my thing. And I take it with a grain of
Yeah.
salt, and so to each his own.
True, true. I think for me, it plants too much, again, it plants those seeds in people's heads. I feel like, if you go and you get a tarot reading, and I've had a tarot reading
Hmm.
before, but I felt like, looking back, I felt like if I hadn't been told that information about that card, that wouldn't have been hanging on in my mind, and perhaps the situations that played out a few months after that reading wouldn't have happened. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
almost like you take it to heart so much you almost manifest it. I'm a
Right.
big believer.
Hmm.
I'm a
Hmm.
big believer in manifestation. What you put out there is what is going to come back for you.
Right. Right.
And so that's the reason why I don't do them. I won't get a tarot reading anymore, because I just feel like once that information is told to me, of course I'm not going to forget it. Of course I can't just let it go, whether it be good or bad. Um, but I don't want to be led to put any type of energy out there that I didn't
Hmm.
intentionally want.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, so that's just my own personal thing. But I like you. I know people who read tarot, who read for other people, and they're fantastic. They're really
Right.
good at
Right.
it. And if
I.
that's what you want to do, that's fantastic. But I think again, you have to educate yourself and know
Right.
what
Right.
it
Right.
actually entails.
Right. Right.
And with anything in life, like I said, I'm a big believer in manifestation. And, if you put certain energy out there,
It's gonna
that's
come
going to
back.
come back.
Right.
That's what
Right.
you're
Right.
asking the universe
Right.
for. So you just
Right.
need to be really careful. Yeah.
Right. And just like you, I mean, I think we're similar in that aspect that our one of our growing up um, is we've always wanted to help people. We've always
Hmm.
wanted to be there for that person or to be a listener or to be, I had so many girl friends in high school that they could tell me their life story and I would sit there and listen and this and that and they would be like,
Yeah.
oh, you're so great and you listen to us and this and that. We'd love hanging out with you. And then like, but you don't want to date me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it
You're
was
there.
like, and
Just a
she's like,
listening ear.
yeah, right, right. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, and that's the way I kind of grew up. It was just the fact that,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
I would listen to people, and I've always wanted to be able to give objective reasoning and this and that. You know, when helping somebody or somebody comes to me with a problem, you know, and they talk to me or whatnot. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
even my wife is the same way. I mean, when she, you know, where she works and she runs into people all the time, it's almost like she has. It's like we have signs on our forehead that says, "Please tell me your life story." You know,
Right.
and it, but that's just it's the way it is, which is fine. You know, and I think that she's kind of accepted it more so now. I've accepted that a long time ago that people just
Mhm.
wanted to. They felt my frequency was welcoming enough that they came to me and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you. I need to, you know, kind of just express how I'm feeling in this and that." But I've also run into emotional vampires as well,
Oh
and
yeah.
they will
Yes.
suck the life out of you.
Yes.
They will get what they need and disappear
And move on. Yeah.
and move on.
Yeah.
You know, and I've ran into so many of those over the years, and it's like, okay. And there's been times where I've had to just say enough. I can't. You know, you
Yeah.
need to get some help somewhere else. I can't. You know, I can listen, but
Yeah.
that's it. You know, even
Yeah.
so, you know what I mean. It's just one of those things where I don't. I have issues with my energy draining itself anyways. You know what I mean. For whatever I eat or whatever my health issues or whatever. I don't need you to help that
You don't
along.
you don't need to add fuel to the fire here.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I don't need to
Yeah.
do that, but but that's just the way it is right now, and it's even in the public eye and even in social media. You know, there are non-contact social vampires that are sucking the emotions and everything right out of you, or creating havoc. And it's like, gosh, it's like, can't you people just stop? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Can't you just be your normal self? Can't you just
Yeah.
and I want to ask some of these people that go to create trouble just to create trouble, what is your intent, your true intention of who you are? You know what I mean? It's like that's a standard.
Yeah.
What is your core? Who are you and what is your core and what is your true intentions of being on this earth for?
Yeah.
And for me, it's to help people, to educate people, and to be there for somebody. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the way I look at it. And I've always felt that way, you know?
Yeah.
But
I
it's
think
like,
that's so important because we need more of that. Like you said, there's just so
mm-hmm,
much toxicity. There's so
mm-hmm,
much chaos everywhere. I mean, you can't
right.
turn on the TV without seeing it. You can't log on to your
Yep,
phone without
yep,
seeing it.
yep.
And it's draining. It's
It
so
is.
exhausting.
Uh-huh.
And it makes people it screws around with mental health. I mean, it
It
just
does.
does.
It does. It does.
I've had to leave social media. I've probably stepped back from social media a good 85%. And with my fiction author pen name, I've stepped back almost 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at different outlets on how to have my followers continue to follow me
Right.
just because I don't want to deal with the toxicity
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
That's
I It's not
surrounding that.
worth it
Yeah.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also not going to give other people, I'm not going to allow them to use my page or my pages
Right.
as an outlet for themselves either.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Right.
I'm not going to be an enabler. So
Yeah.
with my author name, I've really stepped back